Hey everybody, welcome back to the basement. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are here with another GG1. This is from the 2024 Volume 2 catalog, and it is the Conrail version. This is number 4800, or Old Rivets. This is a special locomotive because this is the prototype that the Pennsylvania Railroad built in 1934 and then changed hands from PRR to Penn Central and then eventually here to Conrail. And it's got the rivet detailing, and this is the Visionline locomotive, very similar to the previous Visionline release that they did many years ago. However, this has an updated gearbox, which helps it run a little bit smoother. I've had this thing on the layout here for just about an hour so far, and it's running really, really well. Now, rumor has it that the smoke units on these are wrong, and some people saw my previous video of the Metka GG1 and they were asking about the smoke. Why does this have smoke if it's an electric locomotive? Well, that's because these had steam generators on them to help provide heat for the passenger cars and whatnot. So every once in a while you see that puff of steam shooting out the top of the locomotive, and that is prototypical. However, apparently these are running consistently, and I did notice that on the Metka version that the smoke is running consistently. And you know what, to be honest with you, that's annoying. Sure, it is. I would, if it's happening on this one, which I have not noticed yet, I'm just going to turn the smoke off because I actually never used it on my other Pennsylvania GG1 from the last Visionline release. So we'll play that one by ear. Now, this is the first one that I'm adding to my collection from this 2024 Volume 2 catalog release. I'm also waiting for the set, so the Visionline GG1 Freight set that comes with, I believe, a hotbox reefer, soundbox car, and sound caboose. It's like a really awesome set. Looking forward to that one, and then I'll break out all the X31 box cars that are still in boxes that I have from, I think, the same catalog. So let's dive a little bit closer because the detailing on this thing is just phenomenal. It's so nice. We'll look at it compared to the other GG1 from Metka. You'll see maybe some differences, especially because this one's got the rivet detailing, and then of course we're going to run it around the layout with some mixed passenger cars. So here we've got it. You can kind of see if I zoom in a little bit. Some of the things, you'll see you'll see the riveting detailing on this because again, this is the prototype. And if we look back over here at the Metka version, you'll see it's just smooth, just as all the other GG1s happen to be. Now, so why was this one riveted? Remember, this is the prototype version. So these are, when they built the prototype, they just used different sheets of metal and riveted all of them together. Obviously that would have taken significantly longer to do. So this is 4800 was the only GG1 that was done in rivets. Now, number 4800 again was built in 1934 by the Pennsylvania Railroad, and it survives today in Strasburg. It's kind of painted in a rust protective black. It's sitting in the yard in really bad shape. Hopefully they can do a cosmetic restoration on it at some point in time and move it maybe into the roundhouse that they're building or into the actual museum main building. There is another GG1 that's already in there, but I think getting old rivets restored would be really, really neat. But because of the riveting would be a little bit more of a significant work over to get that done. Now, some of the other detailing differences that you're going to see, obviously, other than the rivets, is you're going to see some different detailing up here. You've got some different electrical detailing, and you'll see like the red paint and so forth, which is a really cool piece there. But other than that, you know, they're fairly standard and the same, but I do love that rivet detailing. It just adds a little bit more depth to this locomotive. Now, we've talked GG1s again. We've talked about them in the past, and as I said, this is the first one that was built. These do have spring doors. They've got LED lighting. You've got the LED pantographs that rise and go up and down. You cannot run these from the pantographs. They've got the LED light that flickers to look like it's sparking, which is pretty neat. You do have the controls are underneath this top hatch, which is where your steam generator smoke comes from. Down below, you've got two separate sets of drivers and dual motors. These things should be able to pull a significant amount of passenger cars, unlike their predecessors in the previous run that had a lot of gearbox issues. This one's cool because it's got that builder's plate there above Conrail, and again, I think they did a really nice job with the blue paint on this locomotive. Here's one defect that I'm not super happy about. So this pipe along the top from pantograph to pantograph, it's kind of not seated correctly there. It looks like it was bent out. I'm going to see if I can fix that at all, but I think it's fair for us to go ahead and show that since this is what it came from the factory. Again, the tops of these locomotives are nice and smooth. We don't have that seam like we did on the old ones. You can see here on the Metka custom run version as well. Very, very nice. Now, when I did my video on the Metka version, I had misspoken. These do need 072 curves. I did say, I believe I said 054. That was for the passenger cars. And I mentioned, as I said that I don't know how they would navigate those curves because these things really struggle on any uneven 072 curves. So 072 is the minimum on these. Make sure you've got that before you purchase one and add it to your collection unless you're going to just display it. And they are beautiful display pieces if you don't plan on running them. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up, and we're going to run it around the layout with some Lionel 21-inch passenger cars and maybe a few mixed in other old heavyweights.
I'm going to check the ADD just to be doubly safe. If something were to happen, I don't want it to be because of us. Yeah, you need to be extra safe on the other line.
Let me know what your thoughts are on this one. I think they did a great job with the blue color. It looks fantastic from my perspective, and I'm really happy that this is the one that I picked. Now, on the box, this says this is 95 of 100. So I guess that means they only made 100 of these. So it's nice to be able to know exactly what that quantity number is, and I'm really happy to have this one in my collection. Now, before we go, we do have a viewer mail segment today. Today's viewer mail is from my buddy Greg. Greg sent me a message on Discord, and he's asking he said this is a little bit of a different viewer mail because he is working on finishing his basement so that he can build his train room. And so he asks, we've been working with an architect on some house updates, and a finished basement's one of those. He said, attached are the final drawings, or the first drawings, you'll see the train room is one of the features. He says he likes the overall concept. It's nice to have a dedicated space to keep the cats and everybody else out of the train room. Couldn't agree more. My basement is wide open, and so if dogs or cats get down here, it's end game. And plus, when my kids come down here, they're playing down here with friends. And I'm just trusting that things aren't getting damaged on the layout. So it's nice to have a space that you can actually close it away. He said he's gonna have some recessed area for shelving, display shelving. There's room to walk around and have people hang out and run trains, but it's limited to a 20-foot by 8-foot island layout. So the layout is a little limited, but but maybe there's some other nice to have features. He says, I think the space could be reworked a bit, be more conducive to around the walls or something a bit more around the perimeter, which would allow for a larger, more complex layout, but would probably eliminate any other feature of the room. You'll see, so now we'll pull up some of the photos here. You'll see that near the top of the train room is a steel beam that crosses the basement with 3 columns in the train room. Can't move those. So they're either just gonna be out in the open space or buried in a wall. Anyway, be cool to hear your take on this. So let's go ahead and dive in. So looking at just the train room, it looks like, you know, you've got the doorway there on the side. I can see the train table built in, and then you can see where those beams are on that far side. You know, kind of a bummer where that beam comes down, but again, there's nothing that you can do about that. I love the idea of an island layout. The problem is you can't really have backdrops unless you put the backdrops against the walls 3 feet past the layout, which you can do. The problem then is if you're using the walls for display shelving, then you don't have that. So that's just one feature for someone like me where I'm doing a lot of photography and videography of my layout. I need the backdrops to be there. If you're not doing the type of YouTube and social media and video work that I do, maybe you don't need the backdrops, or you can be a little bit more creative with how those backdrops maybe come in and out or are displayed. So that's just one feature. You've got a couple closets on that far left wall, and so not much that you can really do there because of the closets. Can't put anything against that wall. I would probably put the layout against the top wall if I was going to do it, so that way you can open the door and have some open space. Put the layout against that top wall, and then you've got a little bit of play with that little bump out space, and then your closet, you know, you could bring the layout in a little bit. So I think you've got some opportunity there. I see where the recessed areas are for the shelves, but if you have the layout against the wall, you can also do shelving in front, like under the layout piece, like in front of the fascia too. Looking at the photo of the entire basement, and if we zoom in a little bit, one of the things that would be really cool that I would do in this situation, Greg, is if I move the layout against that top wall, and hopefully I've got some photos here of kind of drawing this out for you. You've got an area where you could do a really cool tunnel that sends a train through past the TV room on just a little shelf. So just one little bit of track, you have it hidden by plexiglass, but just something that connects to the other part of your basement. And it doesn't take over that side of the basement, but it's just a little homage to the trains are there. And it would just be kind of a cool, I think, neat feature of running the train through the wall. So if you bump the layout to that top wall, you could send a train right through there, right along that wall behind where that chair is. And you could have it elevated, if you did an elevated line, have it up higher so it's above people, and just have it run by, and then have it curve right back in through that wall again, back onto the display, onto the table. So I think that would be really cool. I think it would give you a little bit bigger space. You would have two sides of your layout against a wall, and then kind of an L space that you can kind of move around it. I think that'll give you a little bit more square footage of train space. You would probably move, that would give you what, that's 4.5 feet there. I don't see this, is that about 3.5? So that would move you up to about a 22 by, what, 22 by 12 foot train table. So it gives you a little bit more square footage if you do that. You know, or you could just add more moving around space too. So yeah, just some different options there. I think to make it dynamic would be to move that, send something through that wall there into that TV room. Just something small. I mean, you're only taking up maybe 4 inches of space off the wall, and it can just be a shelf, so it's not nothing that goes to the ground. And again, it would be a really cool looking thing coming into that TV room. Wouldn't even take up much noise or anything like that. So just an idea. Thanks, Greg, for sharing. Let me know what your thoughts are, and you can leave Greg a comment here below too on what your thoughts are that he could do for his train room. Looking forward to more progress on that layout, Greg. Thanks again for sending us the email.